since the people in this film are in the room, we'd like to have your full attention, please. Thank you so much. And so this session will be led by Katie, moderated by Katie, and we'll move right into the panel discussion after the film is introduced and viewed. Okay, welcome back. So the second film that we'll be viewing this evening is a film by Roda, Siad, who is here with us this evening. Yes, thank you very much. Along with some of the cast members from the film. So after the viewing, they will be taking questions and talking about, hopefully, the filmmaking process, but also our theme tonight, Performing Diaspora, and taking any questions from you. So Roda is an emerging filmmaker who is interested in producing socially conscious films that explore the different facets of human nature. Specifically, she has a strong interest in projects that document the experiences of the African diaspora in Canada and globally. She recently completed her master's degree at Ryerson University. Congratulations, Roda. In Between Stories is her thesis film. In Between Stories is a short documentary that features 4 young artists from the African diaspora community in Toronto. This film touches on issues including media representations of Africa, experiences of second-generation immigrant youth, and the role of storytelling. As they navigate through the different narratives that make up their lives, they share what it means to be a young African in today's society.
Uncivilized, primitive, hopeless, poverty.
Yusra and Kaysan up to the stage. One question I would like to put to the whole panel, and then perhaps we can get some questions from the audience. I'll move away from the mic because I'm quite loud and don't really need it. You each use a different medium to express your art. I was wondering if you would be willing to speak a little bit about why you think the medium you use best expresses what you want to say. And whoever feels comfortable starting, you can go right on ahead.
What medium do I use for film?
Yeah. Unless you feel like you want to speak about a different medium that you use, but for film, it's a good way to start.
Okay, can everyone hear me? Okay. So I'm a film student. Well, I was a film student at Ryerson, and so it was my first introduction to filmmaking was the program. And I would say that I guess I just gravitate towards that medium because A, I don't have to be in it. I think if you have a fear of cameras, as long as you're holding it, you're good. But I think that film is a powerful medium in terms of, rather than just telling people what you want to say, I think it's sometimes it's more powerful to show them. And documentary filmmaking is an area I'm interested in, and I think it's because it's an area that sheds light on a lot of issues globally that are overlooked. So I guess that's why I gravitate towards that medium.
For me, I think I discovered early on that writing was as a form that I could best express how I felt. It from when I was young, I was writing short stories or poetry, and I think most people they're very hidden within. A lot of who they are is suppressed and hidden within themselves. They're not able to fully show their humanity to everyone they meet, even if they've had a relationship with someone for a long time. So writing was a way to sort of convey some of my deepest emotions without having to sort of tell people directly who I am. So writing kind of captured a lot of who I was, or who I am, or who I'm becoming, rather.
I'm kind of the same way. I always gravitated towards writing because writing was such an integral part of my identity. It was almost like an extra lung for me. And ever since I was young to where I am now in different stages of my life, writing and spoken word poetry kind of took different forms. When I was young, writing was companionship and friendship. And as I became older, writing became resistance. And the thing I love about spoken word poetry is because even like the structure of it, it was used to rebel, and it was used for social consciousness and to challenge oppression, and just even the essence of it is kind of what I find the most attractive thing about it. And I think even the fact that I like spoken word poetry, what I like the most about it as well is because it allows me to build my own narrative and build my own story about me, especially in a society where there's already a story been told about me, and there's expectations and things that people believe are really me, and these stories have been imagined and they've been told by people who are not me on behalf of me. And I think that's why I love spoken word poetry, because it gives me the power to construct my own story and tell my own story on behalf of my own self. And when people listen to it and people, find something in it, people are inspired by it, people find a point of where they can resonate with it, that even empowers me even more, because I feel as if my own original self, my own original story is inspiring, it is powerful, and people can connect with it. So that's why I always gravitated towards writing.
Hi everyone. Okay, so I'm a multifaceted artist. I don't strictly paint. Going back to what Yusra said about words and writing, telling your own story. So I was homeschooled. I was brought up in a household where there was no cable television, so books became my best friend, and I guess I just had a fascination with the pictures that accompanied the stories, because pictures have the power to allow the reader to delve in between the lines and pick up on emotions that aren't necessarily stated in the story. And I guess drawing and painting just came naturally to me. I also sing. I'm a vocal teacher, a piano teacher. I've had classical music training from the age of 6, so writing music is also something that comes naturally to me. So communicating my story doesn't necessarily have to be painting a picture. It can be just going to the piano and composing a piece. So that way, and I guess these were just elements that were deposited into me as a person from when I was young. So these are the gifts that I have been given that speak naturally to me as a human being, and having the power to create something, and then like having my paintings in a gallery or an exhibit, and people coming to speak to me about how that painting or how that drawing made them feel, and how I can go into a painting feeling one way and then put it up on a wall, and then 7 people can come tell me 7 different stories. That's just a powerful, I can't even explain it, but it just makes sense to me. That's how I communicate.
I think for me, it was first music for its own sake, just to perform, just enjoying doing that, again, that immediate reaction from people. And then as I grew as a person in my consciousness and my awareness of the world, at first it was like, okay, this is the kind of music I'm making. I was initially influenced by a lot of, after the church stuff, it was a lot of hip hop. And I was, with hip hop, you have to create a persona, and you have to sort of, the hip hop I was listening to, you had to be this tough guy, So that came for me when I started performing. That was what I was doing initially, and then there was a conflict within myself, because that identity is not who I am as a person. And looking at other artists, looking at other traditions, that gave me the permission to really write and look beyond that. So it was when people in university introduced me to artists like Neil Young or Bob Dylan, or even listening to Bob Marley and that kind of stuff. It gave me the permission to kind of express how I experienced the world through music. So I'd say it was having fun first, trying to be someone else, trying to be Nas second, and then, you know, just realizing that, wait, you can actually write about yourself and sing about these things that you experience. So that's how I came to music.
Thank you. Is anyone from the audience? Pablo?
Thank you. No, I would assume everyone can hear me, but you need to keep me. Thank you. It was a really interesting and insightful film. Congratulations. As young people, as I say to my kids, I'm old enough to be your father, right? And one of the things I'm interested in with young people, notwithstanding the fact that you said when you were young, you are young, is your voice. You spoke about it. You spoke about your voice and how you came to be who you are. But what would you say is distinct about you? A lot of people out there who do what you do, right? So how did you find your voice? How did you construct your craft and try to single out yourself as a filmmaker? How did you, both of you as writers, right? In a sense, not just discover yourself through a number of experiences, but carve out a distinct voice for yourself. And how do you see yourself carving out a distinct voice for yourself? And the same is true for multi-talented artists, right? I mean, there must be people who influence you, but at the same time, I assume also that you're wanting to do something not just like everyone else, you're trying to do something unique and different, which is one of the hallmarks or one of the measures of being an artist, right? So I'd like to hear a bit about that from all of you. I mean, you kind of mentioned it in terms of your own formation. But what about the rest of you in terms of who's influenced you? How do you want to, over time, differentiate yourself from them, distinguish yourself from them? And how do you want, in a sense, to be your own voice so that people can say straight away, I know who she is, I know who he is.
You're going to make Roda start every time, or whoever would like to start? Yeah.
So, I can say I still consider myself just one among many. I'm actually not concerned with being different. I'm concerned with being honest, an honest writer. So I can't say that I can distinguish myself from other people. I'm still in the process of trying to understand the writer's craft and perfect it for myself. I haven't achieved honest writing yet. It's a lot of my writing, I think it may be good, but it's not truly reflective of who I am, my essence, whatever that may mean. But yeah, I think to answer your question, who influenced me, I think Chimamanda, I mentioned in the film, she's been a tremendous source of inspiration. Seeing a woman who looks like me, who's an incredible writer, who can kind of capture experiences of being, you know, being an African woman or man or whatnot, and having that experience in the diaspora as well as in the continent it was almost like an opening for me. Like I can do this, I can write like this, and be accepted by a mainstream audience. So her. And poets like Warsan Shire, she's a Somali poet based in the UK who, she's very much like a Twitter personality, online personality, but her writing is incredibly honest in the way that I want to be. So for me, it's not about difference, it's about honesty and truth in my writing.
I'd love to resonate on that because I think every writer kind of experiences this. For me personally, writing is a process. It's never just an absolute entity. It's something that I'm always working on. And I think the biggest thing that writing has done for me is help navigate myself in society and understand myself. Because every time I write a piece of poetry, there's a fragment of my personality and who I am at this specific time in life. So I would basically say the same thing. I'm not even concerned about being different. To me, the art form is so honest, and it's a process. You know, when I first started writing, I was very self-conscious about not revealing too much about myself or revealing too much vulnerability or emotions. But you know, the more that I've become, I kind of see myself as an onion, just peeling layers, and I'm more comfortable sharing, you know, vulnerable situations and sharing emotions and sharing a reality. And the biggest thing about even spoken word to me and honesty as writing is I'm almost like a narrator, kind of narrating my experiences, especially growing up in a poverty neighborhood. I've seen a lot of things that I don't think a lot of youth have had experiences with, and that takes a toll. That really does take a toll. But then if you have an avenue or an outlet to kind of express that, writing to me becomes so honest, and at that point I just feel as if I'm just reflecting my surroundings. It's not a matter of standing out or being this outstanding artist or people praising you for your talent or any of that. I think it's really about honesty and self-identity and navigation of who you are as a person. And I know I'm still young. I know I'm still young, and I know I still have a long way to go, but then I think writing matures me as a person and makes me understand myself. And I think that's the most important thing, because once you understand who you are as a person, your weaknesses, your strengths, what you need to work on and what you need to take pride in, that could help in kind of making you the most efficient human being to love and to care for people. Because once you understand yourself and you check yourself on, what you need to be taken care of inside of who you are as a person, I think you're more efficient to give help and to inspire and to help and to, be the best human being that you can be, right? So yeah, well, basically the same thing. It's almost the same story.
Would anyone else like to speak to that question?
No, I
You don't
agree,
have
actually. But, yeah, I mean, sometimes people make this exception for musicians because I guess in recent times a lot of what you see of musicians are entertainers. And obviously music, I always say this, music is older than entertainment, you know what I mean? It's like a language, So it's the same thing, it's about not being, this remarkable artist, awards, record sales and all that. There's nothing wrong with that, but I think, that's not the reason why a person slaves on a guitar, picks up a pen, like stretch your vocal cords and do all kinds of crazy stuff to communicate an experience. You don't do that because you want to be cool. You do that, it's the blues, you don't sing the blues because you want to be cool. You sing it because you want to express something that's deep. And so it's the same thing. I think it cuts across every art form. It's the same thing. The desire to express yourself is more important than the desire to stand out or be unique. And it's a human thing. It's the reason why we all do what we do. We want to be. Your existence is a validation. So you're expressing your existence, and you're unique by doing that. Period. So that's how I see it.
I just wanted to add to what Kei-san's saying about expression and using art as a form of expression. So in terms of why I even wanted to create a film like this while I was in school, is that the fact that it very much reflects my own personal experience growing up in Canada with a hyphenated identity, considering myself to be Canadian, but at the same time having this distinct cultural background that, no matter how hard I tried when I was young to get away from it or to move away from it, it was always pulled back in that direction. So I think in terms of, I wanted to know what people who fit in my demographic, how mainstream media depictions of Africa has affected their own identity formation, and specifically artists, how they use their art to counter some of these images. So in terms of craft and filmmaking, I'm still new to that, so I haven't really, developed that fully. But I think the whole thing started from wanting to see people on the screen that we don't get to see every day, and to hear the voices that we don't get to hear every day. And those are, our own voices, using our own voices in independent forms of media to express ourselves. So that's why I made the film, so that I could meet people like this that you would probably not meet on a regular basis. So,
Yes, so I'm going to co-sign on what everybody's saying about, what you two said about being honest and about being vulnerable, because it is a journey and it is a process, and I can't sit here right now and say, oh, I'm an accomplished artist, I don't even know where I want to end up, as an artist. It's definitely a journey that can only be discovered through you being completely vulnerable, and when that original, never before found on this planet part of you pours through into your work. Only then can you enlighten the minds of those around you. And I think for me as an artist, it's not necessarily about me as a person. I feel like as a human being, I am a vessel, and as a vessel, I was given a gift. And with this gift, I have been given a power to unite a lot of people because, you know, I feel like art has a lot to do with uniting souls because we're just more beautiful together. I don't necessarily see myself I don't see myself as a traveler on this journey like the lone wolf warrior person. I want to influence and touch as many people as I can along the way, along my journey. So it's not necessarily me shooting for, I guess, an individual dream. It's more so what my gift or how my gift can affect the masses, kind of thing.
Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. You guys are good. You're doing good. I always say, you know, black is beautiful. Black is courageous. Black is pretty. Black is ambitious. And black is everything there is or there are. I enjoy what you guys are doing, but the question I want to ask is, in going through this journey as an artist or as artists, what has been the greatest challenge you guys have met on the way, and how have you been able to combat that particular challenge? And second of all, has there been a way you guys have been able to get some sponsorship from the government or from individuals to be able to, you know, continue in this art form? Thank you.
Okay, to answer your first question, I think the biggest challenge that I've had as an artist is the process of decolonizing my mind. Because I was born in Nairobi, Kenya, and I'm from Sudan. And when I came to Canada, the first thing that I had a hard time with was situating myself in this environment, and for the first time facing racism and discrimination and being considered other. So for the most part, a lot of the first couple of years that I spent in Canada, I was adapting a lot of ideas about me and my identity, and I kind of transformed myself to fit this mold of who people thought I was. And for a very long time, I was not happy about my African identity and who I am. And I vividly remember a story of when I was in elementary school in grade 8. My mom used to braid my hair like this, and she always used to add the fun beads on it and everything, and I loved it. When I was in Africa, I thought I was popping. I was like, hey, you know, I loved my hairstyles. But when I came here, like, I remember this one kid, he came up to me and he's like, your hair looks funny, it looks like sperm. And I was like, what? And I remember going back home and I was so upset, and every time my mom would braid my hair, I would fight her because I would be like, no, let it look as not African as possible. I'd make her straighten my hair or do stuff to it to make it not natural. Like, my hair naturally grows to be kinky and curly, and I don't want it to have that part of me out there. And I think it's vivid stories like that that make me see that the biggest challenge that I face as a person, not even an artist, is the process of decolonizing my mind. It took me a very long time. I had to take a step back and unlearn and redefine myself and relearn ideas about who I am for my own behalf. And I picked up a couple of books like Black Feminist Thought from Patricia Hill Collins to Bell Hooks. And going to school, going to university and taking the classes that I do, I try my best to focus myself on learning about my African roots and who I am as an African woman. And it's taken a very long time, and I'm still in the process of shedding that colonial mentality about myself, especially being a racialized woman. And it's very hard because sometimes I do feel as if I want to stop, because I'm constantly bombarded with images about my womanhood, especially being a racialized woman. It's very tough, but I feel as if this is where my art comes in. Art is here to challenge that and resist those images and rewrite a story about me, re-script the scripts that are written about my body as a Black woman. And I think it's an ongoing process. I still haven't overcome it, and I don't think I will ever overcome it into the next coming years. I think that it's something it takes a while, but so far I'm very proud of who I am as a person. I'm very comfortable with my race and my gender and my sexuality and my religion, and I'm very proud of how far I've come. And I don't think I'll be able to even continue on this journey if I didn't have the love and the warmth of my mother and my siblings and my culture. My culture is so beautiful and rich, and it took me a very long time to say that. And I love being from Africa, and I love the diversity and the color and the layers and the multiplicity of African cultures. And that's something it's taking a while, but I think I'm so proud of how far I've come.
I don't know how to add to that, because that's pretty much how, when I grew up, the issues that I dealt with in terms of this constant process of trying to decolonize your mind. And I studied history during undergrad, and where I grew up, the focus was European history first, and then Canadian history as a secondary. There was no African history or African studies at the university that I went to. So, all of the readings, all of the, theorists like Frantz Fanon, I had to discover outside of my studies. They were in the additional reading section. So I would say that for 4 years, men who were not writing for people like me, and even though I learned a lot about the Enlightenment and the Renaissance, there was something that was constantly always pulling me back to, where are you from? Why didn't you discover your roots? Why don't you, study your history? So doing the additional reading and finding all of those Stuart Hall, all of these post-colonial thinkers that I was exposed to on my own, I think that helped start the process, and then everything else. And it's a constant thing, so it's definitely not over.
For me, I think the challenges of a writer, there are many, from just the discipline of writing every single day to maybe building up the confidence to want to publish a work publicly, or read a work or publish a work. But for me, one of my greatest challenges was that I would only be inspired to write when I had negative emotions like sadness or melancholy, when I felt melancholy. So the challenge was when I actually became a lot more happy with my life, to actually continue writing and write well in the way that I could only write when I was sad. And that's a challenge that I haven't yet overcome, but I'm working towards. So for me, that was one of my greatest challenges. But you asked a second question about government funding. I mean, there's the Arts Council fundings. I've never actually applied for anything, but there's some funding there. But I'm doing a degree in journalism at Ryerson, so I guess I've gotten some funding to do a project that's going to involve a great deal of writing and multimedia. So yeah, the opportunities are there. So.
So we think we maybe just have time for one more question. Yes, please. Would you mind coming up to the microphone so we can all hear you? Thank you.
Hello. I'm sure I met you before. I work with Sister Asha, and she approached me to do. She was doing a documentary on the South Sudanese community, and someone recommended me to be in the documentary, and I didn't know why, but it was. She was asking about like how the representation in the media and how it represented, and my views are very radical and very. you might say negative, so I wasn't really confident to go on film and say the truth. But she got it out of me eventually, and I told the truth. When it comes to writing and art form and all these things, there are things that I do privately. There are things that have not come out yet and to tell other people. Because where I'm from South Sudan, as you know, you've seen the documentary Man Mudal, you know, how life is and how the media views us and how they view Sudanese women. So when you try to be a South Sudanese woman and try to come out and say, this is who I am, I have to find a way with the person accept me. It's very hard, especially in Calgary, Alberta. People don't really take you serious because they already have their own idea and their own definition of who they think you are as a person. So my question would be, how can you guys inspire other African people or of African descent to really come out, to really be confident enough to define who they are and choose a life path for themselves, despite what the media has defined them? So how is that possible? How can we do that? So I'm saying.
We're from Calgary, Alberta. So, and not to say that Calgary is not a good place to live. Obviously, it's not as multicultural and diverse as Toronto. But, sorry? So I would say that in terms of how we would inspire young people to create their own work, like you see in the film, is, I mean, now we have social media, now we have avenues that, you know, you can promote yourself and you can put your voice and your work out there. Even in making this film, I had to think about how I was constructing it. And I didn't want to speak for these guys, but even in the editing process, I'm constructing a story. So there's never a point where one person can speak for an entire demographic. My experience is not the same as these individuals right here, nor is it the same as all of yours. But I would say definitely mentorship. I know the South Sudanese community, there are a lot of people in Calgary who are, you know, working with the youth and working to get them to tell their own stories through whatever means it is. So I would say if young people, especially I'm talking about little kids, if they see individuals like you who are sharing your story and your art, then they see, well, there is someone who's like me out there. There is someone, I turn on the TV and I see someone who looks like me, and I hear their story and it sounds very similar to mine. So I would say that once we see more people who look like you on the screen, then I think it just goes from there, and younger people are more inspired and motivated to continue and to share their story as well.
I think it takes a kind of, I guess, foolish fearlessness to kind of throw your story out there, because you will be rejected often, and you'll have to be able to have a type of courageousness that will allow you to develop a thick skin in the face of sort of mainstream rejection. But persevere, take that rejection and allow it and let it propel you further. Chimamanda, when she wrote her book, I think her first one, maybe even her second, she's writing about a type of African people that aren't typically shown, middle-class Africans. So when she had taken it to her professor to review it, her professor was like, that's a nice idea, but write a more believable African story, an African story that involves poverty. And she's like, really, this is the Africa that I grew up. I grew up in a university town. My father was a statistics professor or whatnot, and she still sent it to publishing houses. She was rejected, I think, a few times, and now she's like one of the most well-known West African writers in the West, right? So I mean, again, a type of fearlessness you have to have, courage, even if it's fake, just pretend you have it, cloak yourself in it, and just go for it and persevere. That's it.
I think from my experiences, the best way to bring youth together, you know, to make them bold enough to share their stories to the masses, I think what it takes first is safe space. You have to find a safe space in your own self as an individual, and then safe space to share with people. Like, for example, how I came out as an artist, my safe space was first inside me, and then my notebook, and then from my notebook it became just, I kind of skipped a step and went to the stage directly, but in my university, I kind of created a group on campus with one of my best friends, and it's called Poetic. So what we do is we provide that safe space, and it's unbelievable how people you never thought wrote or have a story like that they want to share come out and actually do end up sharing, and it's absolutely amazing. So once the safe space is provided, I think the next thing is to provide community and support, because once you have those key key fundamentals, I think it shapes bravery and confidence. And once you have that, I think people are more willing to share their story to more people. And like on set, when we first came out, we had like 50 people show up to our show, and then recently we put on our last show was a poetry slam. And we sold out the show. We had 200 people on stage, in the audience, and different youth on stage just sharing their stories because they felt safe, and they felt this is a space that I can talk and people will listen. And they felt a community, and they felt very encouraged. So I think those are very key elements in terms of making people, share their stories. And it's not everyone is going to feel comfortable. Some people are more comfortable sharing their story, to themselves or to their notebooks, or, without a name, under an anonymous title. That's their safest way of sharing their story. But other people feel more comfortable on stage, or whatever art form it may be, right? So yeah, it just varies. But I think that's from my experiences, what I've seen is most successful.
Well, okay, thank you very much. And just before we get to, we're going to conclude the evening with a performance by Kason and Jeff Gunn. But just before we get to that, I want you all to join me in thanking Emmanuel, Roda, Tendisai, Lelu, Yusra, and Kason for being foolishly fearless, gracious and honest, and for giving us the gift this evening of your story. Thank you. I'm sorry, I apologize. Yusra is also going to perform for us this evening. Thank you so much. I'm just going to reintroduce her, even though we got a sense from the film. Yusra is a Kenyan-born artist from Sudan, based in Toronto. Double majoring in international development studies and women and gender studies, she hopes to provide an alternative image of Black women and empower anyone she inspires with her work to translate into tangible action. Woo!
Okay, this is a bit restrictive. Is it possible I can just take off the mic?
Absolutely.
Okay, so I'm gonna start off with a very, very light piece, and then I'm just gonna go on to another piece. So I have two pieces planned for y'all today. Before I start, I just want to say how many people are in love in this audience. Oh, I definitely know they're in love. They're a very, very cute couple. Okay, so this piece is called For Love, and I hope y'all enjoy it. It's only been 2 years in this relationship. Before I met you, I dabbled in relations with you. We all love the honeymoon phase, relationship stages. Pages bind us through ink stains and pain through words. You always seem to hear me out, but sometimes you have your phases. You must have ice packs for shoulder pads, cause lately you've been cold shouldering me, scoldering me. And even though time gets in the way, that's how work do. I promise to make love to you in 5 verses 7 nights every day, past 5 like a haiku. I cross my heart like those who believe in Christ do. You add sweetness to my blood like a diabetic type 2. We can kick it like socks do kicks on some tight food, and you can still bring heavy rain to my eyes like a typhoon. Transform me on full moon and back on high noon. Like a loon, you turn me on like a banana does a baboon. Before I met you, I was like Drake. I had trust issues, and all my pain ended up smeared back on my tissues. So my walls went up like a bad game of Tetris. But ever since you, they melt like the wicked witch of the West did. Now the only walls I put up, you posting them. Stick a post-it on my heart like a poster kid. Place it on stage where it's supposed to be. Cause every time I'm around you, it's a ball. We stay meant to be like Kobe and O'Neal. We only score no nails. Stay high like tall hills. Thrills, chosen, paper bills. Don't it feel good to make love for the whole world to watch? There's nothing between us, only passion and drive. You shoot, you strive to bring the best in me. And even when the world's testing me, you only say to test in me. Stick by my side and testament, you invest in me. You stay on point to the point, your points get potently passed across. We can sit 60 minutes still like stainless steel beside Brock and your sweet tooth child's table. And although I sometimes don't think you able, you surprise me. But sometimes we argue and go days without talk, and everything we had stands still like a block. Those are my worst days, so I scrunch up piles of paper trying to scrape a decent way to connect us two. But you tell me I'm too uninspired for you, so I wait till I'm ready, hold you steady. But sometimes you fight me off like Jason and Freddy. You're only checking to see if I'm real, not like a $2 bill. But when you see my heart's really heavy, you let me blow up like a Katrina levee. Sum my pain in 3 minutes of poetry, gift of a flow to make it poetry. You open me up like zippers on my skin. To every part of me from out to in. Track my every mood like we were friends on Blackberry pen. Close to me like kin. Cause every time I'm around you, I feel like Charlie Sheen. Win, 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 I'm winning when I'm with him. When I miss how blissful you make me, I sometimes worry that you might break me. Get up and leave and never come get me. But for the time knowing you, I know one thing. You are the only man to turn my pain into pleasure. And there is no measure of how much I treasure you. I love you, and I know you love me too. You remind me every day that I'm a phenomenal woman, that I'm beautiful, that I'm intelligent, that I'm creative, that I'm a queen. And a queen is only fit for a king, and until you come to me in flesh and a diamond ring, my heart belongs to you. Spoken word. Alright, second poem that I wrote it about hip-hop because I'm a huge hip-hop head. I love hip-hop and I grew on hip-hop, and I think I reached the stage in my life where I was just like conscious about what I was taking in, and I really wanted to criticize the mainstream versions of hip-hop because I felt betrayed as somebody who loved hip-hop, and hip-hop was such an integral part of my identity. So I hope y'all enjoy this one. It's called Blood Music. Trapped in the bars and hooks and melodic tunes, music so potent, hit your soul with ease like it's open. Blood music is the saddest cue of young brothers dying every day, chasing unachievable goals like playing soccer with no ball, they fall. Struck that a life is once white tea, becomes a red card, he foul hard, and as his teeth kisses congregable blood diamonds that are conflict. Bullet holes spit shots in middle, pierce the soul of a young boy, forgot how to fly. Statistics show that black males ages 15 to 19 are much more likely to die from fire wounds than any other age group of youth. Black gangster masculinity does the work of white supremacist capitalism, selling their souls into many contracts to race, class, and sexisms, reducing a black man to control everybody around him with fear, not intellect. To never interrogate himself with enough introspect, perpetuating falsely constructed knowledge about him, like brutes that rape white women, lynched based on accusations of subjective perceptions of an image from an imagination of what black men are supposed to be. This translated in time, that's why some white women lips pursed hold, their purses close to their chest whenever a black man walks by. Black boys continue to mold themselves into a 50-cent template, a lifestyle and culture created by white supremacist CEOs in business suits, employing the very same logic as slavery, turning black men to objects of mockery. Your favorite gangster rapper is a template designed of a racist-defining mechanism of false manhood. Under contracts to get paid, he induces black-on-black crime and controls black female bodies. Trademarks as uninspired, uncreative business labels at hip-hop. Jam Master Jay must be rolling in his grave because we have come far from fighting the power. Hip-hop is transformed from an art, an outlet, an expression, to a marketing tool and consumerism. From shoes to clothes to souls and thoughts, it seems like these days anything can be sold and bought. In addition, it has become a script of self-destruction, mass corruption, promoting aggression and domination, apartheid in America. We see the template designs of deadbeat daddies and unfaithful fathers, high school dropouts and jobless cop-outs, men who transform when the lights knock out, boys who don't realize they have choices beyond robbery, boys who have lost brothers and fathers to gangs as their camaraderie, gripping onto their masculinity because they hold a sense of pride that was stripped by whips. So this is their reality, trapped in a system of poverty, yet their struggles branded and packaged, glamorized on television sets, taking steps to institutionalize ideologies of constructed stereotypes of black men. Idealize the boys who don't realize that what they see on TV are real lies, pushing black youth away from books, victims mind control, their identity, embodiment, and ignorance. We see the effects in reality. Boys who grew up knowing 6 feet under before they graduate high school. The reducing of a black woman to back fat, plummeting the self-esteem of black girls reflected in self-hate, dying under the knife, injecting silicone shots to inflate what is mandate. In the culture where image is the price of life, I wonder if black men feel shame enough to cry at night. I pray when I say I wish hope would cradle you in the cup of its hands. Bloom passion until your thoughts desire change you from the countries of rubber bands. Lace your blunt to love to elevate you high enough to reach redemption. Spike your drinks to comfort to make you hang over your insecurities. Your worst should not be reduced to whether your clothes match. You were not a man by how much money you stash, how many girls you smash, how many pounds you sold, and whether you've been in and out of prison. Your soul is not worth 50 cents. So you don't have to beef with it because that's the game. You don't have to burr and false Gucci because ice eventually melts and Waka is not your only flame. There is drive ahead of flashing cars, passion past superficial women, status beyond brand names. Real men use their power and resort to create change. Because generations are at stake, we need to stop the cycle of mistakes and grow as a race. Because if not, like lungs and respiratory, the repetition of history is serving in a template based in dollar bills. Lynched from ropes to diamond necklaces. Baking an American pie on the backs of blacks, iceberg from whips of greed of boys who will trip and fall, chasing the American dream through this blood music. I don't know if you have a bit of my set time. Meeting Emmanuel Jal is so monumental to me, monumental. This is a point in my life that I probably will never ever forget. You know, in my beginning stages of consciousness when I was coming out and learning more about myself and the structures of society, I wrote a piece about masculinity just by listening to Emmanuel Jal's story, and that inspired me so much. And today I can't believe that I'm standing right across from him and I'm about to share it. This is monumental for me. And I personally and I want to thank him for the inspiration, because I don't think if I ever heard his story, I would take the steps to want to deconstruct masculinity the way I do and pursue my academics, especially my women and gender studies major, the way I do, because I believe that a lot of this world's evil is constructed through masculinity, a wrong understanding of masculinity, and it what plagues a lot of people. So I want to dedicate this to you. So. They say that men are never supposed to cry. And we have become so accustomed to this lie that it has molded itself to a way of life. A cultural construct built on lack of understanding and strife. Deeply entrenched in masculinity, it is sinful for a man to show vulnerability. And the hostility created around salty tears brings faulty fears when a man takes the steps to express himself. Often limited, he oppresses himself, stresses himself, channeling his emotions through either an awe, anger, and cockiness, the costumes of pain and sorrow. And although he has many tendencies to cry, he abhors the tears of struggle formation in his eye. He refuses to defy the normality surrounding this notion of masculinity, so he shyly wipes contemptuous tears dry. The implications of having emotional attributes creates an image full of substitutes, far from what a man may stand for, questioning his strength or sexuality, his manhood, all because of a choice to let his emotions and body connect. And in this tough guise, hundreds of boys lead troubled lives, sparse around the globe from war-filled nations to suburbs and ghettos. The good enough reasons to shed tears are shed in years of growth. Boys in Somalia, boys in Jamaica, Queens, boys in Afghanistan, and boys who are Brooklyn teens, boys who have seen family die, boys who don't know how to cry, boys who know how to channel these emotions through grenades and AK-47s, landmines and stat times as 11, violence and aggression beating us back to the whipping words of men and how they don't cry. Of men and how they defy, of men and strength and this ability to lie, this ability to apply anguish and pain to actions that retain fear and domain, to never complain or explain the inferiority and shedding tears so heavily retained, the disdain associated with the obtain and maintain of heart's space, the vein playing out in actions, which is the main transaction of one who is weak, one who is unable to seek control. And in this control lacks the moist salty drops of expression. Intent fuel then becomes aggression that finds its way in our daily news. Young boys killing young boys from rich and poor neighborhoods. And in some cases, it's young boys killing women and men, fighting under political causes they know nothing about. Religious extremists who defy what they stand for, taking advantage of this constructed principle of masculinity, putting these boys in trouble, violent wars that doesn't concern them, it doesn't involve them. Tears that were supposed to be shed when his mother was raped in front of him are found under female victims that are under him. Tears that were supposed to be shed when his father beat his mother are found on his girlfriend's face pregnant with his own daughter. Tears that were supposed to be shed when drugs were the reason that his best friend died are found in the young reactions of a boy who never cried. They say that men are never supposed to cry. And we have become so accustomed to this lie that it has molded itself to a way of life, a cultural construct built on lack of understanding and strife. Deeply entrenched in masculinity, it is sinful for a man to show vulnerability, and the hostility created around salty tears brings faulty fears when a man takes the steps to express himself.
Thank you so much, Yusra, for 3 beautiful spoken word poems. Sorry, I just need a moment to catch my breath now. So now, Jeff Gunn and Kaysun will be performing for us. I just want to reintroduce Kaysun and introduce Jeff Gunn. Kaysun is a Ghanaian-born singer, songwriter, and poet. Currently based in Hamilton, Ontario, he received a BA in Multimedia and Philosophy from McMaster University. He has played venues and festivals worldwide and has opened shows for such diverse acts, as Anna Tijoux, Kanan, Speech to Bell, and Dan Mangan. Kaysun is scheduled to release his second full-length album, Afri, in the spring of 2013. After taking up the guitar at age 14, Jeff Gunn has drawn inspiration from the full spectrum of musical genres. He appears on Emmanuel Jall's new album, Sini Mama, on the track Boost to Win. He has also been playing a series of shows with Canadian-Ghanaian artist Kaysun, including a show for us this evening, at venues and events including the Virgin Mobile Indie Series and the Luminato Festival. Jeff appears on several tracks of Kaysun's forthcoming album, Afri, coming out in 2013. Please welcome them to the stage.